Welcome to One Bite is Everything, the podcast that uncovers what you don't know about your food. I am your host, Dana DePrima, and today we are starting at a critical junction. A new administration in Washington, fresh campaign promises, and a host of policies that could shape the future of food, farming, and everything in between. I am going to do my level best to break down what's on the horizon for farmers, consumers, and the entire agricultural sector in simple, straightforward pieces. Each such episode, like today's, is intended to be politically neutral, focusing solely on what these changes might mean for the food on your plate, the farmers growing it, and the systems that bring it all together. I look forward to hearing what you think and what you want to hear more about. So, if you like this episode or you're curious about other similar topics, drop me a note at Dana, D-A-N-A, at forfarmersmovement.com. Let's start with trade policies and tariffs. Both Donald Trump and Kamala Harris outlined distinct visions in their campaigns. Now that the election is over, obviously Trump's position and ideals will be the way forward. But I thought you'd also like to hear what was left on the table with the Harris campaign as a comparison. For Trump, it's about imposing tariffs on companies moving production abroad. A 200% tariff on companies like John Deere, for example, could keep jobs in the U.S., but might increase costs on essential equipment for farmers if companies raise prices. Trump's focus on reviving a trade deal with China promises to boost demand for U.S. agriculture, but it is worth noting that past trade tensions led to reduced exports and financial strain for many farmers. Harris, on the other hand, was looking at ways to support smaller and mid-sized farmers by combating farm consolidation and improving access to farmland through protection programs. She also advocated for the Agricultural Right to Repair Act, which would allow farmers to repair their own equipment, potentially saving costs. From the Trump administration, there's another factor at play, but I'll get to that in a minute when we discuss upcoming appointments. Agricultural labor is a cornerstone issue, and Trump and Harris have laid out dramatically different paths here. Trump's commitment to mass deportations and E-Verify would crack down on undocumented workers, nearly half of the U.S. farm workforce. This could lead to severe labor shortages, raising questions about who will harvest our crops. On the visa front, Trump has spoken about H-2A visa reforms, but has shared few specifics. Harris's approach sought stability through a pathway to citizenship for agricultural workers and enhancements to the H-2A visa program aimed at making the process more efficient. Her policies on labor rights would also protect wages and working conditions for farm workers, supporting a more sustainable workforce. Environmental policies are also a significant component to look at, where both candidates addressed regulatory and climate issues in agriculture. Trump's Project 2025 envisions broad regulatory reductions, easing some compliance burden for farmers, but potentially lowering environmental protections. Harris, on the other hand, emphasized climate-smart practices. Her proposed voluntary partnerships with farmers had the potential to open new income opportunities for farmers tied to sustainability. Harris's campaign included specific commitments to rural healthcare, a recruitment initiative for 10,000 healthcare professionals in rural areas. The goal? To address critical healthcare gaps in farming communities. I have a future guest in mind to address rural healthcare, especially for farmers, so I hope you'll stay tuned for that. When it comes to estate taxes, Harris supported a substantial decrease in the exemption limit, which could affect family-owned farms passing between generations. For some, this policy could mean selling farm assets to manage the tax burden, a concern for preserving agricultural heritage. Right now, the estate tax only applies to inheritances over a certain value. As of 2024, the estate tax exemption is $13.6 million, which means that estates valued below this amount aren't subject to federal estate taxes. For most family farms, this high threshold means they don't have to worry about paying federal estate taxes when they pass the farm to the next generation. Kamala Harris proposed lowering this exemption from $13.6 million to $3.5 million. With a lower threshold, many more estates, the largest family farms, or about 3% of family farms, give or take, could fall within the taxable range. If a farm's total assets, including land, buildings, equipment, and livestock, are valued over $3.5 million, the inheritors would have had to pay estate tax on the value above that amount. As we look ahead, several significant developments are unfolding within the United States Department of Agriculture that could shape the future of American agriculture and food policy. Congressman Thomas Massie from Kentucky is being considered for the role of Secretary of Agriculture. Massie, a Republican, has a background in engineering and farming, operating a cattle farm in Kentucky. He has been an advocate for small farmers and has introduced legislation aimed at reducing federal regulations on agriculture. His firsthand experience in farming and his legislative efforts suggest a potential shift toward policies favoring small-scale and independent farmers. In addition to the proposed leadership, the USDA is expected to include advisors with diverse agricultural perspectives. Notably, Joel Salatin, a prominent advocate of regenerative farming, has been appointed as an advisor to the secretary. Salatin operates Polyface Farm in Virginia, known for its sustainable and innovative farming practices. His inclusion signals a potential emphasis on regenerative agriculture within the USDA's future policies. I will be interviewing Joel Salatin later this week for a future episode of One Bite is Everything. Robert F. Kennedy, Jr. is anticipated to play a significant role in the administration through the Make America Healthy Again, or MAHA, initiative. This initiative aims to promote healthier food choices, address health disparities, and to reduce chronic diseases linked to diet and environmental factors. Kennedy's involvement suggests a focus on integrating health considerations into agricultural and food policies, potentially influencing USDA programs and priorities. Let's hear directly from RFK Jr. about his vision for this initiative.
Hi, this is Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and I'm here outside of the United States Department of Agriculture to tell you about a win-win policy that I'll be pushing in the Trump administration. It's a win for farmers, for consumers, and for the environment. And the purpose is to make America healthy again. America's current ag policy is destroying America's health on every level. It's destroying the economic health of farmers by forcing them to get big or get out. Big corporate farms do just fine, while the small and medium family operators are squeezed to the point of collapse. It also destroys the health of America's soil and water by tilting the playing field in favor of more chemicals, more herbicides, more insecticides, more concentrated monocrops and feedlots. And finally, it destroys the health of consumers. Not only do the chemicals pollute our bodies, the same way that they pollute the soil, the corporate interests have hijacked the USDA's dietary guidelines to make natural, unprocessed foods barely an afterthought. That's one reason why 70% of the American diet now consists of ultra-processed food. We're going to change that. We're going to give farmers an off-ramp from the current system that destroys their health, wrecks the soil, makes Americans sick, and destroys family farms.
Well, that's a little bit of a look into what's coming and also a little bit about what might have been had Harris been elected. As you can hear, the upcoming administration has ambitious plans for agriculture, trade, labor, healthcare, and more. But what does this mean for you? Whether you're a farmer, a consumer, or just interested in the future of food, stay tuned. In upcoming episodes, we'll dive into how these policies might actually play out on the ground. Before we go, I want to hear from you. Send me your questions about today's episode or anything else food related. Who knows? Your question might be the focus of a future episode. Thanks for joining me here on One Bite is Everything. Don't forget to subscribe and to share with anyone who cares about what's on their plate. I am your host, Dana DePrima. Thank you for being here today, and thank you to the One Bite is Everything team. I look forward to being together with you again next week on another episode of One Bite is Everything.